My name's Dan. I'm from the Midlands. Some people know me from Third Wednesday Drinks, and others will know me under Sedan FC, which is my Twitter handle. I'm often found at a pub every third Wednesday in Worcester, with a number of like-minded libertarians, people who are at least not woke or authoritarian. That's probably the loosest band that I can give. Since COVID-19 happened, I've been posting school reports and good war, bad war updates, looking at all the celebrities, and actually it's not just celebrities and people, but it extends to sort of brands, retailers, organisations, looking at to what extent they've had a good or bad war. So I've become known as the list person on Twitter. I think the mainstream media narrative that was nurtured during the sort of Blair, Brown, Cameron years and then went into overdrive with the Brexit debate was that actually we need more government, we need more regulation. Something like humour, for example, has been really regulated by the sort of mainstream narrative. But the reality is, if your entire life is submersed in politics, it suggests that politics is playing far too much of a role in your life. What we're in right now is a sort of political malaise. I think it's quite turgid. It's almost like being at school in sort of, if you're into Harry Potter, it's like sort of Dolores Umbridge has taken over and there's a new law pinned to the top of the door each day and you have to put Sky News on to see what it is and how it might affect you. And I actually think that's quite a depressing form of politics. This has been an unprecedented period of time. None of us have known a period like this, but I firmly believe that most of that is down to the reaction by the media, by the vast majority of MPs, certainly the government and society, complying with all of this. It didn't need to be this way. And I think what was being promised as a very short period where we were just going to sort of buckle up, at the back end of the sort of winter flu period and lock down for a few weeks and have a bit of mild inconvenience, has stretched out for months on end. And I think we find ourselves here at the point where people are talking about the new normal, handed tidbits on a plate by the state in terms of what can open up, what can go back. Their lives are being completely dominated by the government. Only a few weeks before the mask laws came in terms of shops, the government rejected masks as being a requirement. And nothing had changed from a scientific standpoint since then. They always, with masks, throw up the whole thing about dentists and doctor surgeries. Well, yes, but if you're going into theatre, they wear a mask, you don't object to that. Well, firstly, they are the sort of masks that are surgically endorsed by medical practices. Secondly, they're put on in hygienic environments with people who sterilise their hands, who are putting these on in a tried and tested way. What we're talking about are face coverings, which might range from ski masks to bandanas to scarves. Very often you see them loosely put on people's, left on people's neck. You have this sort of weird sort of gap between the argument, which seems to be that we're all going to go around like doctors and dentists, and the reality, which is this is effectively a placebo. So if there is no medical reason for this happening, and actually you could argue that there are some medical reasons not to wear a mask, not least the hygiene point, then it comes down to the fact that, well, this better be a damn good reason for forcing people to do this, because what you're doing, you're saying people need to cover their faces in public. That's never been a law in this country. That's the sort of thing that people in the West would critique in other countries, perhaps. So I think that's a huge thing. It sounds like a very petty thing to get concerned about, but actually in the context of our civil liberties, if you're saying to people, well, if we force you to wear a mask, then we can return to normal and people will have a degree of confidence to go back out in the street. Really? You're saying that you want people to open their front door and see everybody wearing a mask and get a sense of comfort, get a sense that that represents normality. It's preposterous when you think of it like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. There will be people who have had extreme life challenges, whether it's to do with, kids in education, whether it's to do with their health issues, whether it's to do with just, life planning, wanting to get married, wanting to move house, to change jobs, to do the things that you normally do, and their lives have been put on hold, and we see no sign of things going back to normality. So I think it's really important, actually, that the people who feel that this is not normal, that this is abnormal, there is a better way of approaching life than this, that people with those experiences actually share them and come forward and discuss them and really provide an alternative to what we're seeing 24/7 on the BBC, on Sky, on Twitter, on Facebook, without any challenge. I think that's the worst part of this, is that there's no nuance of debate. Well, there's no debate really at all, and I think it's so important actually that people come forward and offer their alternative perspective, because it's only by having that really that you're going to get a change. It's going to have to come from people. This was not something that was on a government manifesto, and let's face it, there's another 4 years before the next election. Even if a party suddenly materialised from nowhere with a manifesto that was an antidote to this, you don't have a choice right now. So it's so important, I think, that people actually come forward and provide an alternative perspective.